Tuscany, in the center of Italy, embodies beauty, culture, and history. The region is more than just its capital, Florence. There is another Tuscany, which we are about to reveal to you. It offers wonderful scenery between the sea and the mountains. It is studded with magnificent towns and villages of outstanding heritage. The people living there have jealously guarded the traditions inherited from a splendid and prosperous past. Welcome to La Bella Italia. At the very heart of Tuscany stands the fortified town of San Gimignano. The town has remained almost untouched since the 13th century, and today it is an essential visit for lovers of the region. It is immediately recognized by its 5 watchtowers known as house towers. The tallest at 54 meters is La Torre Grossa. From its summit, the visitor has a view of the town, built in the Middle Ages on a hill overlooking the Val d'Elsa, a valley through which pilgrims had to pass on their way to Rome. The twin towers of the Ardignelis dominate the northern slopes. In the 13th century, the town had 72 house towers. At that time, they were a measure of the power and wealth of the local aristocracy. Back then, San Gimignano was a match for its powerful enemies, Florence and Siena. But all this came to an abrupt halt in 1348, when the plague brought the town to its knees. Today, the towers bear witness to this glorious history. The Torre Grossa towers over the Del Popolo Palace. Here lived the wealthy families who contested power over the town, the Ardignelli and the Salvucci. You can still see their coats of arms on the walls of the interior courtyard of the palace. These rival families conducted a veritable civil war from their huge watchtowers. At the center of the town, we see the Cathedral Square and its twin, the Fountain Square. It's lined with imposing palaces and houses with richly decorated stone facades. Here beats the heart of this picturesque city, with its narrow streets and its quiet squares. Today, this small town of 7,500 inhabitants adapts its lifestyle to the thousands of tourists who come each year. The town was classified a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1990. One leaves San Gimignano with the marvelous feeling of having gone back in time. The valley of Chianti, the embodiment of the spirit of Tuscany, is surely known throughout the world. It offers bewitching landscapes, full of sensations. Gentle green hills surrounded by cypresses, olive groves, small, peaceful hamlets. But it's the wine that bears its name that brings fame and wealth. The magnificent medieval village of Castellina is the headquarters of the League of Chianti. It's famous for the Via delle Volte, a street almost entirely covered with imposing stone arcades. Today it houses restaurants and art galleries, showing the work of many local artists. A few kilometers south of Castellina, we visit a winery, the San Donatino domain. It belonged to Léo Ferré, a French poet and singer of Italian extraction who died in 1975. Nowadays, his widow Marie-Christine and son Mathieu manage the domain. The Ferrés, winemakers since 1971, are passionate about the wine they produce.
Leo wanted to leave France, and so we came to Florence. And as we found the region very beautiful, we settled nearby. Over there you see the hill, there's a house on the hill. There's some vines, some olive trees, more vines and olive trees down there, before the woods begin. The vines were scattered here, there and everywhere. Now we've organized them a bit. Otherwise there would be 3 plants here, 5 over there.
Over a period of 40 years, the vineyard has been completely transformed. Now, these 15 hectares of vines produce 80,000 bottles a year of excellent Chianti Classico. Mathieu Ferré keeps a close eye on the grape harvest. The bunches are very carefully selected.
As you can see, the grapes are harvested by hand. By hand because in that way you can pick just enough, sort them, and choose the best bunches. When there is one unripe one or one that's rotten, or where a slight spoiling is beginning to show, it doesn't go in. This work is done in the vineyard. It's these men who make the basic ingredient. I myself am in the cellar. My work is in the cellar. It's a bit like giving birth. There's work to be done, but I just go along with it. But the wine is made in the vineyard. It's not made in the cellar. This is a good year. We've been lucky. Now we're going to empty the trailer.
The wine Mathieu Ferré grows at San Donatino is the epitome of a Chianti produced from a noble and fertile land.
I make the wine. It's the essence of the earth. The earth it grows on, the climate, the microclimate we have here, and the terrain, and the love and passion we put into it.
Heading south towards Siena, we find the charming little medieval village of Monteriggioni. It's a fortified village, and the great walls have 14 towers. In fact, in the Middle Ages, Monteriggioni was a huge barracks. Hundreds of soldiers lived here, totally self-sufficiently. They cultivated the gardens around the Romanesque church to produce food for themselves. Monteriggioni was a highly strategic site, an outpost for the defense of Siena. The fortress often came under siege, but it was never taken. In 1554, the garrison captain betrayed Siena and gave the keys of Monteriggioni to the Florentines. The villagers still talk of the traitor's wandering soul that haunts a secret tunnel whose entrance is the well opposite the church. Each year, thousands of tourists are attracted to the village by its air of mystery. It's a favorite stopover. It's an enchanting world where one can enjoy strolling along the walls, walking in the sun-filled streets and spending a few hours in a time capsule. Here we're at the town of Siena, unique in the world. It remains suspended in history between the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Siena is the epitome of a medieval city. It was designed as a work of art, perfectly integrated in the Tuscan scene. It proudly displays the colors of Tuscany with its ochre and pink facades, its green shutters, its brick-built houses and tiled roofs. Siena is an immense open-air museum on the scale of a town of 55,000 inhabitants. Over the centuries, its inhabitants have been wise enough to protect their town from the assaults of the passing years. Here, tradition is very much alive. Walking up the Via della Città, you can't miss the Pizzeria di Micoli, the oldest grocery and delicatessen in the town, opened in 1889. Inside is a veritable Alibaba's cave. Preserved sausages, enormous hams and cheeses hang from the ceiling. On the shelves, the best Chiantis of the region. The owner, Antonio Di Micoli, known for his large moustache, is a lover of good food and wine.
Chianti classico, riserva, 2008.
If he's not cooking one of the many specialities of the delicatessen counter, he's raising a glass with his team and tasting a Chianti. Antonio, who is an expert in the matter of Tuscan gastronomy, enthusiastically reveals to us his culinary secrets.
Roast pork. You are cut, suck them. You see, the crunchy part is very tasty. Good Massimiliano. Bravo, bravo. Look at the way it comes, you see? Crunchy, not fat at all. 7 hours of cooking, it means all the juice will remain inside the flesh. Crunchy. And we make also 3 lombos, and it's special, like 3 chunks of meat, 3 tenderloin all together. We squeeze between a piece of lard from a cinta senese. The cinta senese, for people that don't know, they always mix between a pork and a cinta senese. The pork, this is a regular pork from Siena, and this is cinta senese. So inside here is 2 kind of animal. This is what is in the middle, and this is all round. So we cure the lard first for 3 months under the salt with herbs. The herbs, it can be rosemary, sage, and all comes from my garden. The herbs, so we chop the herbs with the garlic is up there, and we keep for a long time, I will say 3 months, we roll and we tied up with a string, spago, in Italian, spago, and then we keep under the salt for another like roughly 10 days. We take away from the salt, we wash, we let dry, and once it's ready, people, they have a good tasting eating meat with a lard. But we always appreciate to say the lard is part of the slice. You don't have to throw away. It's very tasty.
The other speciality of the delicatessen is Pecorino, the Tuscan cheese.
The cheese is always tasty, sticky. It's like a buffalo, mozzarella cheese, but this is from a pure sheep milk. Like the difference between one fresh one to a hard one. My colleague will cut. On a fresh one you can have a flavor and a smell of fresh milk. And the old one is completely different. Stronger, not spicy, but tasty and long flavor. This is called pecorino con le foglie di noci. It means it's been treated with walnut leaves.
But the real treasure at Antonio's and of Tuscany is truffles.
We pick it up one, already washed. We wash the truffle with a toothbrush, one by one, very slowly. And this is the way it's going to be. There we are. Get one. We adjudge the measure we want. Here we are, and it's coming. This is tartuffe when we have the meat already chopped. The tartuffe will go inside natural, without any colors. We don't go and buy colors. This is natural things. They pick up this from the ground. They go with dogs. Cane da tartufo. They're very expensive. This is one of the reasons truffle is expensive. You don't go there and pick up by yourself. It will be difficult. But if you are not expert, you can get. Tartufo.
We can't leave Antonio without tasting his plateau of charcuterie, a veritable feast. Narrow streets slope gently down in a labyrinth of brick arcades and suspended passages alongside the loggias and palaces. The town was classified a UNESCO heritage site in 1995. The visitor goes from one revelation to another. At the bottom of these steps, an old washhouse under a Gothic arch. Here, a splendid bronze fountain representing a cherub. The lintel of this church has frescoes that have remained almost intact. Painted Madonnas at street corners. Each detail is a work of art. Like this bronze plaque representing the wealthy owner of this imposing townhouse. Siena was immensely rich. It was a town of bankers. The most famous one, Salustio Bandini, lived in the 17th century. He was a Jesuit and an economist, the father of modern liberalism. His statue dominates the Piazza Salimbeni, which is the name of a wealthy family of financiers. Their Gothic palace, built in the 12th century, is now the seat of one of the oldest banks in the world, the Monte dei Pacci, the Mount of Piety, founded in the 14th century. The years 1400 are called the Quattrocento. It was the century of splendor in which the bankers transformed Siena, building palaces and erecting monuments. A little further on, we see the Chigi Saraceni Palace, the music academy of international renown. In the hallway, visitors are welcomed by a statue of Pope Julius III, who was a student in the city. The loggia and the interior courtyard are remarkable examples of the local architecture, which blends Gothic and Renaissance styles. The palace was built in the 12th century. Its brick walls lend it an austere look, reminiscent of the Middle Ages. You can still see the coat of arms of the original owners, the Mariscotti family, an eagle with its wings spread. On the other side of the courtyard, under the columns supporting the loggia, one can see magnificent frescoes dating from the Renaissance period. The palace was sold in 1506, and the new occupants modernized the building and commissioned these wall paintings from Giorgio di Giovanni, a renowned Renaissance painter and disciple of Raphael. He painted rural scenes of Tuscany and also the exploits of the heroes of antiquity. And so Siena's wealthy merchants rivaled for power with the bankers. In the same street, we find the Loggia della Mercanzia, the commercial court, a building which bears witness to their prestige. There too, the statues represent the patron saint protectors of the city. The loggia, built at the beginning of the 15th century, is a perfect example of Quattrocento art, which harmoniously combine the Gothic statues of the pillars with the Renaissance-style frescoes on the arched ceilings. But Tuscany also means the Mediterranean. 8 kilometers from the coast, we can see the island of Elba. With its rugged contours, its Etruscan castles perched atop sheer cliffs, its jagged coastline laced with inaccessible creeks, Elba is a magnificent island, protected to this day from mass tourism. Its claim to fame is to have hosted the Emperor Napoleon in exile. He stayed there only a few months, from 1814 to 1815. He lived in this splendid house, the Villa San Martino. But the Emperor of France was not there to admire the beauty of the place. He had only one idea in his head, to return to Paris and reconquer his empire. Elba has been steeped in history since antiquity. The Greeks gave it the nickname Italia, the spark. The first inhabitants were Etruscans, and even in those days they were exploiting the many iron ore deposits. In the 16th century, Elba came under the domination of the Medicis, who developed the extraction of the ore. The iron was exported to Florence and Siena from the port of Marina nell'Elba. Even today, the opulence and the beauty of its villages on the east coast bear witness to the splendor of this period. Sitting at the top of a hill at 180 meters altitude, the village of Rio nell'Elba is the oldest on the island. Its beautiful ochre and pink houses remind us we are still in Tuscany. Rio nell'Elba was the center of the mining industry. But this is no longer the case today. It is now a charming town, an absolute must for tourists. The old center is perfectly preserved, with its cul-de-sacs decorated with little stucco fountains, its paved lanes winding towards the main square, and the Baroque church dominating the valley. Elba has remained untamed. It's covered in beech and pine forests, hiding colorful houses in their midst. On the north coast, we are now at San Andrea. The site is famous for its magnificent beach of white sand and its crystal clear waters. Its wonderfully sheltered bay is much appreciated by visitors who enjoy its old-fashioned charm. On the west coast, the scenery changes dramatically. With its steep cliffs falling straight into the Mediterranean, its small hidden creeks of translucent water, and its scrubland forests, you could think you were in Corsica. In fact, the Isle of Beauty is only about 50 kilometers away. Along the coast, Chiesi is a small, authentic village sitting by a beach of black pebbles. The locals come here to enjoy the seaside. Even further west, the big beach at Cavoli is a favorite with holidaymakers. In summer, this magnificent bay is always crowded. But to find the most beautiful beaches, you must leave the car behind and follow the scrubland cliffs that slope down gently to the sea. If you search carefully, you may find this little isolated creek and the wonderful Fetuvaya beach. Hidden in the depths of a deep bay, it's one of the most highly prized in Italy. On Elba, autumn is the most beautiful season, and in October there are still plenty of tourists to enjoy the sea. The island is mountainous. Its granite stone rises to 1,019 meters altitude at Mount Capane. There are magnificent villages on its slopes, and their pastel-colored houses dot the green of the forest. On the north slope, perched on a rocky outcrop, is Poggio, a veritable jewel of Tuscan architecture. It's known as the village in the clouds. For many years, Poggio was a little town abandoned by its inhabitants. But in the last few years, they've come back to give it new life. Its granite-paved alleys and its houses with tiled roofs have been completely restored. It is, without doubt, the most beautiful village on Elba. And when the mist comes down, it is clothed in mystery. In the space of a few minutes, Poggio disappears in thick cloud. But very soon the sun comes out and paints it in its rainbow colors again. We leave Elba and Mount Capane, heading for other jewels of Tuscan culture. Back on the mainland, here we are at inevitable Pisa. The whole world knows its famous Leaning Tower, one of the symbols of Italy. But the Great Square, known as the Court of Miracles, also houses a baptistry of remarkable beauty. This circular building, together with its pyramidal cupola decorated with sculptures, was completed in the 14th century, during the famous Quattrocento. It's a masterpiece by Nicola Pisano and his son Giovanni, who were also the architects of Siena's Cathedral. The baptistry's tympanum is richly decorated with bas-reliefs, sculpted by Nicola Pisano himself. They represent scenes from the Old Testament. Right opposite stands the majestic cathedral, harmoniously blending Romanesque and Byzantine styles typical of the Renaissance. Above the central portal, guarded by two superb stone lions, there's a magnificent mosaic of the Virgin of the Assumption. But the real treasure of the building is its monumental bronze door and its remarkable bas-reliefs, in which the technique of perspective was used for one of the first times. The figures inspired by the life of Christ seem to detach themselves and come to life. However, if the whole world comes to Pisa, it's to visit its incredible Leaning Tower. It's 56 meters high. Its characteristic lean of 4 degrees to the south, which at the top attains 4 meters in relation to the vertical, gives the impression that it could fall at any moment. And yet, it has stood there proudly for more than 800 years, and each year, more than 1 million visitors come to take part in a strange ritual. To have their photograph taken while pretending to lean against the tower to prevent it from falling over. Further to the north, Tuscany offers yet another facet, the Apuan Alps. It's an exceptional panorama. The mountain looks as though it has been sculpted by a giant. Its heart is cut into stone slices of impressive dimensions. Lost in this immensity, the quarrying machines look like children's toys. Welcome to the Carrara Massif, known the world over for its marble quarries. In the valley's villages, the marble is cut into blocks weighing several tons, ready for export worldwide. Quarry workers take great care when handling these enormous stones, each worth a fortune. Ever since antiquity, its brilliant whiteness and perfect purity have created the reputation of Carrara marble. The sculptress Sera Kalimaraki could never have worked elsewhere. Over 20 years ago, she left her native Greece to settle as near as possible to the material she loves to work above all, marble. Today, she begins work on one of the most famous masterpieces known to the world.
This is the Venus de Milo. The original actually became buried due to war and lots of other things. And a Greek farmer discovered her digging one day. A French naval officer was passing by and he bought her and took her back to Paris. Hence she is now in the Louvre.
To make this copy from a plaster cast, she uses the same method as Renaissance sculptors such as Brunicelli or Michelangelo.
I'm copying exactly from the cast, and I start off with this first big cross with 3 datum points, which are the same 3 datum points on the model. And I transfer this cross over to the model to take my measurements. At the moment, I'm actually going all over the piece. First of all, roughing out the piece 5 centimeters off the real true surface. So I'm creating the rough shape at this point, but in a controlled, measured system. This is the system that has been used throughout history to copy something exactly, one-to-one. One kind of gets a rhythm with this, get into a rhythm, and then you can really start going very fast.
Sera Kalimaraki came to fame by creating these magnificent skulls of prehistoric felines, sculpted in marble from original models. One needs great technical skill and a delicate touch to successfully create these pieces. Her work is exposed all over the world, and each piece is worth many tens of thousands of euros. In tackling the Venus de Milo, Sera Kalimaraki takes on her greatest challenge, putting herself on the level of the great masters of the Italian Renaissance.
Being together with this piece is like going back in time, and you're there in that time with that sculptor, trying to imagine how it must have been to create this piece then, such a long time ago.
There are still many months of work to do before this stone block is transformed into Aphrodite. The marble for the statue was extracted from the Piazza quarry on the heights of Carrara. It's a veritable cathedral of stone, of monumental proportions. This mountain belongs to Franco Petacci's family, who've been working it for more than a century.
My family has worked the quarry for 3 generations. I'm the 3rd generation. We've always worked marble, and only marble. It's always been my trade. It's my way of life.
These days, with machinery, you need only a few workers to cut hundreds of tons of marble each day. But until the 1970s, several thousand men were needed to cut the stone and bring the enormous blocks down to the valley. It really was slave labor with all its inherent dangers.
It was manual work. Before, a block of marble was cut with the aid of pieces of wood. A hand drill was used to make holes for splitting the marble, a natural process. The pieces of dry wood were placed in the holes, then sprayed with water. The wood swelled and split the marble. That's why it was such difficult work. There were many fatalities because during the transport, the marble was taken down using wooden roundels and thick hemp ropes. If something went wrong, you could be killed or maimed. 15 people at one go.
When we admire masterpieces of the Italian Renaissance, we never consider the sacrifice of the men on the Carrara mountain. So as not to forget them, Franco Petacci pays tribute at this monument each time he comes down to the valley. He is always emotional when he pays his respects to his uncle, who died in a landslide. Back to Siena, where all the beauty of Carrara marble is displayed. The masterpiece of the town is without doubt the cathedral dedicated to Notre Dame of the Assumption. As everywhere in Italy, it is known as the Duomo. It was built in the mid-13th century. The Campanile, the great bell tower with stripes of black and white marble, is 77 meters high. It towers over the city, giving it its characteristic silhouette. It took 15 years for the hundreds of workers on the site to construct this colossus, this Gothic masterpiece. The forecourt is richly decorated with an inlaid marble pavement. In the Duomo, one recognizes the hand of those two geniuses of Pisa, Nicola and Giovanni Pisano. The father designed the structure of the cathedral, but the son, Giovanni, made of it a unique work of art when he imagined the facade as a gallery of portraits. On the timpani of the three doors, there are busts of the patron saints of the city. Here we see a Dominican monk holding in his hands an incredible miniature of the town. On the upper part of the facade, there are dozens of sculptures of striking realism. They are by Giovanni di Secco, the director of works. In his pantheon, Di Secco represented the apostles and the prophets, but also Greek philosophers and creatures straight out of Dante's Inferno. The huge mosaics at the top of the facade were executed centuries later, in 1878, in Venice. Siena had ambitions to be the successor to Rome and erected a statue of a she-wolf giving milk to the children of Remus. His eldest son was called Sienus. The past melts into the present. From the Middle Ages onwards, the city has been divided into 17 quarters called contrades. There is great rivalry between them, and to this day they compete with each other in a competition that has made the town famous, the Palio. It's the oldest horse race in the world. The first one was held in 1260. As you walk about the streets, you will no doubt see, decorating the windows, the flags of the various teams, and lampposts depicting animals, emblems of the contrades. The dolphin is the emblem of the covered market quarter. Each year, the teams compete in 2 races held on the 2nd of July and the 16th of August on the most famous square in Siena, the magnificent Piazza del Campo. It's a spectacular contest, which takes place in a supercharged atmosphere. The track, which runs around the front of the buildings, is cleared of cafe terraces and the shops pull down their shutters. Then thousands of spectators gather in the center of the square. The horses set off at a gallop on the slippery cobbles, and the riders have to do 3 laps to finish the course in the saddle. The competition is violent indeed, not to say dangerous. Falls are frequent, sometimes fatal. The Piazza del Campo is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful squares in the world. It was built on the ruins of an old Roman theatre. Today we see it just as it was built in the Quattrocento. Originally it was a huge market for the exchange of spices, leather and silks. But the wealthy families of Siena decided to transform it into a site celebrating their great prestige. So merchants and bankers built imposing Gothic palaces and extravagant houses there. It was Siena's golden age. The real seat of power, the Palazzo Pubblico, or town hall, and as a symbol of its greatness, la Torre del Mangia, dominate the square. The Torre del Mangia, 102 meters high, is taller than the Campanile. This immense pillar of brick is a technical exploit for the period. The Palazzo Pubblico was home to the town council. Nowadays it houses the Civico Museum, which shows masterpieces of the Renaissance. Standing against the left of the facade, a chapel in the form of a loggia. It was constructed in commemoration of the terrible plague of 1348 that wiped out half the population. At the top of the edifice, a circle of painted copper figures the monogram of Christ, JHS, his initials in ancient Greek. The crenellated towers and arched windows are typical of the Gothic period. In the center, we see the coat of arms of the Medicis. The powerful Florentine family thus marks the final victory in 1559 of Florence over rebellious Siena. Visible from as far as the market square, we can see the immense balcony of the Palazzo Pubblico. It's the ideal position from which to get a magnificent view of the surrounding countryside. The other treasure of the Piazza del Campo is the Gaia fountain. It's a genuine masterpiece sculpted by Jacopo della Quercia and finished in 1419. He created marble sculptures with lively and fluid forms, such as the Virgin and Child relief. When you toss a coin into the crystal water of the fountain, you can probably only wish for one thing: to return very soon to enjoy La Bella Italia.